But did you see Bill Nye when he was on Tucker Carlson's show?
No.
It was very interesting.
Really?
It was very.
Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy is now aspiring to a new title, Bill Nye the Psychoanalyst Guy. During a Facebook Live event with Senator Bernie Sanders today, the mechanical engineer and TV personality said, skeptics of global warming suffer from the psychological delusion of cognitive dissonance. It's a slight bump up from last year when he was open to the idea of imprisoning skeptics, global warming, as war criminals. Is that the choice, Bellevue or Nuremberg? Bill Nye joins us now. Bill, it's great to see you.
Because Bill Nye, who's not really a scientist.
No. What is he? Is he he's an engineer?
He's an engineer.
Engineer, that's right. Yeah.
Which is, you know, discipline-based. You have to be smart. But, you know, he calls himself Bill Nye, the science guy. He's, by the way, he has an undergrad degree. He's not even doesn't even have a PhD.
Hey, I
or
got
an
one
MD.
of those.
Yeah. And they were talking about climate change, and Tucker Carlson said, I'm willing to absolutely believe that people have an impact on climate change. He goes, but can you tell me how much?
The essence of science is extreme skepticism. We always ought to be asking ourselves, is my hypothesis true?
I'm a member of both skeptic organizations, Mr. Carlson, and this is climate change denial is denial. The evidence is overwhelming. Don't get me wrong. I love you as a person more than life itself, but the evidence for climate change is overwhelming. So we are looking for an explanation of why you guys are having so much trouble with it.
And then Bill Nye kind of got flustered, and you know he got like a little confrontational, a little defensive. It was really kind of interesting because Tucker kept pestering on him. Like, we're talking about science, so I would like you to tell me, how much of an impact have people had? What are the numbers?
Is it a narrow range? Can you give me a narrow range?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just what he does is he publicizes science for his own personal benefit.
Right. Oh, wait, so down. Before the name calling begins, and before you try to end the conversation, let's start it by asking what exactly you mean. Now, I think most people are open to the idea that the climate is changing. It has always changed, by the way, as you know.
It's the rate, Mr. Carlson. It's the rate that's such a concern.
The core question, from what I can tell, is why the change? Is it part of the endless cycle of climate change, or is human activity causing it? That seems to be the debate to me, and it seems an open question, not a settled question, to what degree human activity is causing that. Is that not an open question?
It's not an open question. It's a settled question. Human activity is causing climate change.
To what degree?
To a degree that it's a very serious problem in the next few decades.
Wait, stop. Wait, no, you said it's a settled point, and I'm asking a very precise question.
It's a settled point.
Okay, then if you'll elucidate it for me, I'd be grateful. To what degree is climate change caused by human activity? Is 100% of climate change is caused by human activity? Is it 74.3%? It's settled science. Please tell us to what degree human activity is responsible.
So the word degree is a word that you chose. But the speed that climate change is happening is caused by humans. Instead of happening on timescales of millions of years, or let's say 15,000 years, it's happening on the timescale of decades and now years. Now, you know, I offered...
Wait, but hold on. But to what extent is human activity responsible for speeding that up? I mean, please be more precise.
If that's the number you want. Humans are causing it to happen catastrophically fast.
Okay, so at what rate would it have changed without human activity? And you look annoyed that I'm asking these questions, but they're very basic questions. They're not denial.
So basically, the cycles of climate change, the last ice age we had was tens of thousands of years ago. So bear in mind that in ancient dinosaur days, there was more carbon dioxide. The world was warmer than it is now. There was an inland sea in what is now Wyoming. And I understand you have a member of Congress from Colorado, used to be underwater, and you go to Dinosaur National Mine, you can see it. Okay,
yes.
But that's millions of years ago. The problem is
you just said it was tens of thousands.
That was the ice age. The rate.
Okay.
The rate is the problem. Now here's the thing: half the people in the world live on sea coasts. As we get the ocean a little bit warmer, the ocean's going to expand, and people who live on the sea coast are going to be displaced.
But you're not answering my question.
He has that terrible show on Netflix, Bill Nye Saves the World. Yeah. Bitch, you're not saving shit, okay? You can't call your show Bill Nye Saves the fucking world. You're not saving the world with this crazy goddamn song about gender.
And
So, you guys, seriously, this next thing I feel is very special. This is a cool little segment. You know this woman from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Please give it up for Rachel Bloom.
This one goes out to all my bipeds who identify world of ours is full of choice, but must I choose between only John or Joyce? All my options only hard or moist. My vagina has its own voice.
And he has.
Did you
Oh
see
my
that?
God! Yeah.
Did you see that thing?
That was stunning. Yeah.
What in the?
Yeah.
Who the fuck greenlit that?
Yeah.
Like, I love Netflix, but hey, a little quality control is not a bad thing. Let's
Yeah.
have somebody on set to go, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
that's right.
What in the fuck is this?
Sometimes I do a voice for my vagina. Please don't tell me I'm the only one who does that. 'Cause my sex junk is so much more than either power bottom or a top off.
I'm a little confused here. What's a twink?
Twink is small and slender, like Mac.
Oh, no. I'm too muscular. I would be a bear. Don't think so, bro. Not hairy enough.
Smooth. I would be a bear.
No, now, see, I don't think you'd be a bear either. As a matter of fact, I don't know what you would be because you're definitely not a twink.
I'd be a top, that's for sure.
Maybe.
Can a twink be a top, or is that reserved for bears? I'm sure there's a great deal of switching back and forth, but I think more often than not, bears are tops, unless they happen to be power bottoms.
What's a power bottom?
A power bottom is a bottom that is capable of receiving an enormous amount of power. Actually, Mac, you got it backwards. You see, a power bottom's actually generating all the power by doing most of the work.
Does the power have to do with the size or the strength of the bottom?
Now, Dennis, I've heard that speed has something to do with it. Speed has everything to do with it. You see, the speed of the bottom informs the top how much pressure he's supposed to apply.
Versatile love may have some butt stuff. It's evolution, ain't nothing new. There's nothing taboo about a sex stew.
Like
Yeah,
this.
like a censor, like in the old that movie Good Morning Vietnam. You know,
Yeah.
somebody that sits there and reads through his material before he does it. No, I saw that and I thought, clearly they don't have anybody who has to approve his content.
But that just shows you where his mind's at,
Yeah.
that he's willing to say yes to that. That's someone who wants to acquiesce with no uncertain terms to the left.
Yeah.
Like, he just wants Meanwhile, he had a film out, a movie or a television show out years ago where he was describing gender, and he was basically saying there's two genders,
Right.
and it's about X and Y chromosome. I mean,
Consider the following.
I'm a girl. Could have just as easily been a boy, though, because the probability of becoming a girl is always 1 in 2. See, inside each of our cells are these things called chromosomes, and they control whether we become a boy or a girl. Your mom has 2 X chromosomes in all of her cells, and your dad has 1 X and 1 Y chromosome in each of his cells. Before you're born, your mom gives you one of her chromosomes and your dad gives you one of his. Mom always gives you an X. And if dad gives you an X too, then you become a girl. But if he gives you his Y, then you become a boy. See, there are only 2 possibilities. X, a girl, or XY, a boy. The chance of becoming either a boy or a girl is always 1 in 2. A 50-50 chance either way. It's like flipping a coin. X, you're a girl, Y, you're a boy. Some people are just lucky, I guess.
then he has this show just a few years later where now the tide has turned politically, where this is such a weird subject about gender and sexual identity and gender identity.
Oh my God.
And so he's got these songs about, like what that lady singing that song, like, hey, this is fucking terrible.
'Cause my sex junk is so much more than either If they're alive, I'll date 'em, Channing or Janitate 'em. I'm down for anything. Don't box in my box. Give someone new a handy, then give yourself props.
Like, all you're doing is just like the same thing as President Trump staring at the sun.
Yeah.
What you're doing is setting yourself up for ruthless criticism that's going to diminish any potential legitimate point that you actually have.
But I will say this: I don't think he really got pilloried for it, right? I mean, nobody really. There was some.
Online?
Yeah, I think some people
Bill
made
Nye?
fun of him, but I
Bill
think
Nye is the trend all over. He has his new Netflix show, Bill Nye, the not-so-scientist guy. Listen, here's something I want to be clear about. I want to set this up. Bill Nye was originally he was like a stand-up comedian, a sketch comedian, and he has a bachelor's, I believe a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So he's not really what most people would consider a scientist. But let's allow that and say that he's a scientist in that field. It doesn't mean that he's an expert in another field. My issue here with Bill Nye is almost a walking appeal to authority fallacy, in the sense that I don't think you need to be a scientist to criticize a scientist's ideas or to come up with some kind of a scientific discovery. You just need to be using the scientific method. I get that. So I don't want to just try and discredit Bill Nye because he claims he's the science guy. The issue I have is that Bill Nye is the first guy to tell everybody else that they have no right to debate or be skeptical because he's a scientist and all the
One of them, but I think Bill Nye, for the most part, he knows that's a very comfortable place for him to do, or for a lot of people. If they say, "Look, I just want to get the adulation of the left, of the far left," then fine. I mean, that's. That's what you want to do it. But you see people that kind of shift their position and are happy to be there because they know they're going to be coddled. And so I get why he does it, because it's a base of it's an audience that he knows is going to stick with him as long as he says the right things.
Yeah.
And apparently he doesn't really give a shit about science, so he's happy to say anything.
Well, I think he does give a shit about science, but I think he gives a shit more about people liking him.
Everyone is on it, even you might like it. If you sit up on it, drag queen, drag king, just do what feels right. You're tall, pansexual, flirty with Sprite. Who enjoys a fleshlight in the cold moonlight?
With a sad clown, Skyping via satellite.
Dance, Skippy, home slice, sing it with me all night. Sex how you want, it's your goddamn right.
The weird thing that's going on in science, and there's nothing like, look, science is fantastic. It's critical for our civilization. I'm not a science criticizer, but there's a weird thing about people that are a part of science, where their own egos and their own need for positive affirmation sort of supersede any critical thinking. So there's certain subjects that cannot be discussed. There's certain things that like they're almost like it's almost like science religion. You know, so there's certain subjects that aren't even open to scrutiny.
Well, I think that's right. And I think part of it is also we have gotten to a point where you can't, and I don't know how you walk it back, but you can't have conflicting ideas in the same statement or the same sentence.
So cognitive dissonance is not a delusion, it's a feature. It's human nature. So we in the science community are looking for an explanation why climate change deniers or extreme skeptics do not accept the overwhelming scientific evidence for climate change. And the most reasonable explanation is you have a worldview, and then you have evidence, and the evidence disagrees with your worldview, so you deny the evidence, and then along with that, you deny the authorities that are providing the evidence. Now,